So continuing on with our series of some frank and honest conversations of question. Does it feel like the Vikings are this close to a Super Bowl? Like this team, as constituted, is just right on the edge of greatness. I mean, does it really feel that way? Now, the eternal optimist in me, Optimist Prime, wants to say, yes, absolutely. Vikings going to go down to Tampa. It's in Tampa next year, right? And hoist Super Bowl 55's Jerome Barty. And then they're going to go to LA and hoist the Super Bowl 56 Jerome Barty too. Back-to-back Jack. Right. But also, I mean, it feels like we should. It feels like we should go into this offseason thumping our chest, one-off playoff game on the road, beat the stupid Super Bowl bound Saints in their face, even though Taysom Hill ran buck wild, whatever. And then, I don't know, maybe that got dampened by the fact that divisional round, you just got waxed. We're going to need more wax by the Niners. That could be it. But also, you factor in that even though the Vikings went 10-6 this year, it felt very unsatisfying. It felt like it was, have you ever eaten like a Snackwell cookie where it's like, this ain't as good? No, we need the fat in there. I mean, bring on the fat, baby. That's right. You don't need to tell me. But also, the fact that the Vikings couldn't beat good teams. You couldn't beat the Bears. You couldn't beat the Packers this year. And they aren't even good teams, by the way. But the fact that you could not win in prime time, you couldn't win on the road, you couldn't do all these things, and yada, 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 failed to show up in big-time spots. You look at both Packers games. Week 2, gave it away. A Monday Night Football, Chiefs game, Bears game. Whatever game. You beat Dallas. Cool. Turns out the Cowboys ain't shit. Yeah, it turns out they're bad. Also, turns out the Eagles are bad, but there's nothing you can really do about that either. And also, the Seattle game. It's like you had your opportunities in that game too. Monday night on the road against a playoff caliber team. Yeah, not so much. But I feel like maybe that plays a part in it. Because even though black and white in a vacuum stats, the Vikings team was 10-6, 10-5 going to the week 17, that didn't matter. So we'll say a 10.5 and 5.5-ish. You should feel good about that, right? Especially after going 8-7-1 the previous season. But I just don't have a good handle on what this team is. This is a team that is complete except never on the same Sunday. Like if the offense is great, the defense sucks, special teams sucks. If the defense is great, offense sucks, special teams sucks. If special teams is great, someone is going to suck, right? They can't win in all three phases. And even you look back to that Denver comeback, it's like, oh, the amazing miracle comeback at historic US Bank Stadium against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos sucked. Even though they woodshedded the Texans later on in the season, the Broncos are a terrible team, and you had to come back, have an historic comeback at home against a team that you should have curb stomped. But other than that, I have no feelings about the matter. And also, I mean, this offseason, you could see some serious turnover, especially some veteran faces. I mean, Everson is already opted out of his contract. He could be gone. Linval could be a cap casualty. Xavier Rhodes, Pro Bowler Xavier Rhodes, I mean, he probably may be gone. Trey Waynes might not be re-signed. Mackenzie Alexander, what about him? Or what about Anthony Harris? Hopefully they retain him. He's becoming one of the better safeties in the league. So there is going to be some turnover. And you've already seen turnover on the coaching staff, whether it's voluntary, Kevin Stefanski, head coach, Browns, no big deal, or involuntary of George Edwards essentially being fired from the defense coordinator position, taking a linebacker coaching job with the Cowboys, as well as Jerry Gray being told to fall on the sword for the lack of production from the Vikings cornerback room, even though who picks the cornerbacks and whose specialty is cornerbacks? Oh, yeah, that's Mike Zimmer. Yeah, that's them. Spielman gets a little whisper in his ear. Draft a cornerback. Oh, wait, these ones suck? Okay, fine. Yeah, whatever. But it's all Jerry Gray's fault. Yeah, I'm sure that is. Although Jerry Gray deserves zero credit as defensive backs coach for the development of Anthony Harris as well as the high-level play from Harrison Smith. I mean, all the credit goes to Zimmer. All the blame goes to the assistants. I get it. That's how it works, right? So you're already seeing that. And like we mentioned, the shuffling and falling on swords of assistant coaches is always a precursor to the head coach being in trouble, right? So next year, I mean, this sort of feels like 2010 after 2009. Like it really does. Where, I mean, 2009, NFC title game, you had a great, phenomenal season, even though the 2009 season does not compare to 2019 at all. It just doesn't. But just that same feeling going to 2010, because it felt like, especially after The Vikings had the just life sucked out of them by the Saints. Bounty Gate, by the way. Greg Williams still a douche. Sean Payton was out of the league for a year, by the way. Yeah, they kicked him out. Yeah, it's weird. But the entire feeling going into 2010, I mean, just speaking anecdotally from my own experience, it was just kind of like exhaustion, where it felt like it was a one-shot deal with Brett Favre. He had a career season, and I don't think that they would be able to replicate that again. Even though they ran it back with Favre, late August, flight down to Hattiesburg, get your ass in the plane, Brett, all that other stuff. I mean, 2010 was just a disaster. It really was. Injuries, ineptitude. They brought Randy Moss back for a month. How insane was that? Brad Childress, a guy who had won division titles, who had taken his team to the NFC title game the year before, gets fired 10 games into the next season. 10 games in. And I sort of have that feeling this year. I mean, even though I like Zimmer, but I just really do. Where if the Vikings start out, say, 3-6, I could see Zimmer being fired in season or at the end of the season, and all of a sudden Gary Kubiak all in. Gary Kubiak plays the de facto Leslie Frazier in this situation. Comes in, even though Leslie Frazier, but with a Super Bowl championship ring, like right there on that big finger. Yeah, that's Gary Kubiak just sliding on in, doing work. But I don't know, like I don't know. Maybe it'll turn around. Vikings have a great free agency. They have a great draft. All of a sudden, hope springs eternal. And there is a gaggle of young players on this team that you're feeling really good about, as well as, I mean, it is the final year of Kirk Cousins' contract. So win or lose or draw with him, there will have to be a decision made at the quarterback position. Do you extend with Kirk? Do you draft a young buck? Or do you just wipe the slate clean and move on in 2021? I don't know. But I think absent a serious playoff run, probably minimum NFC title game in 2020, there's going to be some major changes on this franchise. And that's something that both I'm dreading and I'm sort of excited about. But how about you? What are your thoughts? Are the Vikings like this close to winning a Super Bowl or no? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, subscribe for daily Vikings takes. You want to support the work, pull us on the Venmo. Please give us a follow on social media as well. But until next time, Skol, production value.